I'd like to welcome everyone to PR 101, launching a film using featured talent. I'm Tammy Selden, GSCA's Executive Director, and I'm joined by Kelly Germain, GSCA's Director of Membership and Communications.
Hi everyone, and thank you for joining us today. This is the first in a series of webinars being planned by the GSCA Member Services Committee. Special thanks go to Marlene Janettos from the Museum of Discovery and Science in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Marlene is chair of the Member Services Committee and is leading this webinar initiative, and we'll be hosting more webinars over the next several months. A few logistics for you today. This webinar is being recorded, and a link to the recording will be sent to the participants and to all GSCA members by the end of this week. It will also be available online in the Member Center of the GSCA website. Attendee phones and computer mics are muted, but we do welcome questions, and you can submit those by using the Q&A button that's at the bottom of your screen. You can submit questions at any time during the webinar, but we'll wait to answer them after both presentations have been completed. And now, Tammy will introduce our presenters.
Both of our presenters and their campaigns are winners of the GSCA Marketing Awards for Best Film Launch by a Theater. Maura O'Neill is Communications and Media Relations Manager at the Denver Museum of Nature and Science, and she'll be sharing their campaign to launch Extreme Weather 3D. Kate Piasetska is PR and Brand Manager at IMAX Melbourne in Australia, and will be telling us about their campaign to launch A Beautiful Planet. And with that, here's Maura O'Neill.
Wonderful. Hi, everyone. Give me just a second. I'll share my screen. Okay. Thanks again to Kelly and Tammy and the GSCA team for the opportunity to share some of what we felt made our campaign for and the launch for Extreme Weather successful. Again, I'm Maura O'Neill. I'm the Media Relations and Communications Manager here at the Denver Museum of Nature and Science. Before I launch into our campaign, I just wanted to give you a little context about our venue. We are a natural history museum. We also have an IMAX theater and a planetarium, and we have 2 different temporary exhibition galleries. So we're really conscious about building campaigns around that really allow us to connect directly to folks that we think already have sort of an invested interest in the content of whatever film there might be, because sometimes we can be our own best competition given all the venues that we have on our single site. So let's dive in. Here, we designed our extreme weather campaign to really front load our communications efforts. We wanted to get as many people into the theater to see the film early in the run to help us build that groundswell of word of mouth that really is the most effective way to convince people to come in and see the film. We really wanted to do this especially around our educator audiences, which I'll touch on a little bit later. But once we found out that the TIV and Sean Casey would be coming out to Colorado to celebrate the launch of our film, we really built our campaign around that. So Sean is really down to earth. He's one of the most laid back talent that I've worked with in launching films. He's really relatable. Some guests knew who he was. So on the left here, we have a picture of him. He drove the TIV, started early in the morning from Kansas, made it to Colorado about 6 hours later. This is him moments from popping the hatch upon his arrival. And immediately the TIV is such, an incredible optic that it drove people to it. And then Sean popped out, and some people recognized him as the director of the film. So he was able to start engaging with folks right then. Here on the right, the sort of quad photos there is Sean giving our security captain a little tutorial about how to operate the TIV in case we needed to move it or anything. On the bottom right there in the red circle, you can't see it very well, but that's a magnetic tag or magnetic sign that we created for the TIV to really tie the fact that this vehicle is featured in extreme weather. That little magnet mirrors what we have on the exterior of the building, which here you see that circled on the left-hand side. That's a giant 30-foot banner that hung on the exterior of our building. We posted it about a month before we opened. And as you can see on the right there, we saw nearly 600,000 people walking past it during the course of the film. So we put the magnet on the TIV, and then we had exterior signage, and that also mirrored our interior signage. We have digital ticketing boards in the lobby area. We've got signage in our elevators leading up to the IMAX theater, and then of course signage in the lobby. And really we used all of the same imagery to tie the fact that the TIV was here and is a featured element of extreme weather. And then I wanted to shift gears a little bit and talk about our external outreach efforts. We emphasize organic influencer engagement tactics, incorporating social media and direct outreach to first responders and environmental groups for the launch. So once we found out that Sean and the TIV would be joining us for our opening, we created a blog post that gave some stats about the TIV and really helped us promote the fact that he would be here. All of our social posts led back to this blog post as well to help people find those details. Sean's visit also coincided with an educators night at our museum. So we had 2,900 educators come for an evening where they can enjoy a snack, get a drink, and experience what's coming up at the museum for the rest of the school year to hopefully entice them to book experiences with us for their classes. So Sean and I worked the door for that event. He, in a matter of 30 or 40 minutes, worked through all of the wonderful materials that we got for the film. And he not only encouraged educators to take the materials, but he convinced them that they needed them, and also mentioned that they should go see the trailer that we were showing in the theater of extreme weather that evening to hopefully entice them to book their school groups to come back and see the film. Let's see. We also, on the right here, created a special event inviting first responders to come to a special screening of the film prior to its public opening. First responders and weather scientists and other professionals related to weather. We found out through the course of the outreach and RSVP that given the nature of first responders' jobs, it's very difficult for them to plan to come to an event on a specific date and time. So what we ended up doing was canceling that special screening in advance and just inviting them, giving them 4 tickets so that they could bring their families back to see it at any time at their leisure. And that really worked much better. But it was also a really effective tactic to allow us to connect directly with those groups that are already interested. And even if they weren't able to come, they work in a company or a station of dozens of other colleagues. So that really helped us get that groundswell word of mouth going too. Let's see. And as I mentioned before, our organic social media engagement was really a critical component to our launch. We have the first 2 posts that we did about the TIV's arrival here. We were really pleased. These are simply organic posts. We did not do anything to boost these, and they created the single greatest reach of any organic content that the museum had ever put out. So we were really, the TIV just speaks for itself in terms of it being a visual, and then between all the external signage and things that we were able to do to tie it back to the fact that it's the star of extreme weather really helped us build that groundswell on social as well. We also partnered with National Geographic to send out an e-blast inviting folks to come see the film here at the Denver IMAX. 45,000 contacts received that email, and about 3.67% clicked through. To give you a little perspective on that, we have a membership list of about 4,000 people, and when we send an e-blast, we do see a 44% open rate. Granted, they're a more engaged audience, but their click-through rate hovers, let's see, right around 3.5%. So that was another great way for us to outreach around and raise awareness around the launch of the film. And then in terms of our paid social, we felt pretty good about that as well. We had a return on our ad spend of about 7.5 times, which is high among our other films advertising that we've been doing. And again, with total impressions at 279,000 and more than 85,000 reach, we were really happy with what that did for us to allow us to reach out more broadly. And overall, I would say that much of the success of our extreme weather launch was really the community outreach we did at the outset, sharing content on social, leveraging the TIV as an object of intrigue and a great photo op, and reaching out directly to groups like first responders and weather enthusiast scientists that were already likely to have a high level of interest due to their professions helped us really get that groundswell going early. So I will end there and entertain questions once Kate has a chance to do her presentation.
Thank you, Maura. As a reminder, if you have questions, please submit them using the Q&A button on your screen, and we'll answer all the questions after Kate's presentation is complete. And now, Kate, we welcome you to make your presentation. Thank you.
Hi everyone, sorry, I'm just trying to get this up and going. Cool. Okay, so good morning. I am in Australia, so it is 7 o'clock in the morning here, and I'm really excited to be here. And I just wanted to say a huge thank you to Tammy, Kelly and Marlene for giving me this opportunity to speak to everyone this morning. It's a huge honour. I just wanted to, this morning I'm going to give a bit of an overview of our campaign, and then I'm going to show you a few examples of sort of our coverage and events. So I'll be speaking to you today about our campaign for a beautiful planet, and just a bit of an overview of what we do here. So our IMAX Theatre forms part of the Melbourne Museum. The Melbourne Museum is a natural history museum, and we see about 1.3 million visitors every year to the museum. The Melbourne Museum is part of Museums Victoria, which is a state-run organisation which also encompasses a science museum, a World Heritage listed Royal Exhibition Building, an immigration museum, and also a planetarium. So we're a pretty massive organisation, and my role specifically is to manage the brand and publicity for the IMAX Theatre. Yep, so that's a bit about us. So I just wanted to highlight the GSCA connection with this campaign. So in 2015, IMAX Corporation presented A Beautiful Planet at the GSCA conference. Our theatre manager, Richard Morrison, and my former colleague, Rio Ryan, were at that conference where Marsha actually spoke about the film and encouraged everyone to take it, obviously. Rio and Richard approached Marsha and asked if she would be interested in coming to Australia to promote the film. She was really excited and said yes, and we were thrilled. So from then on in, once we locked in a release date for the film, it was all systems go. So a bit of a campaign overview for you. So we opened the film in September 2016, following a really successful run of screenings at the Melbourne International Film Festival. We had sold out sessions, and that really began to develop the groundswell for this film. So NASA astronaut and IMAX liaison to the film, Marsha Ivins, came out to Australia to promote the film. We rolled out an integrated marketing and publicity campaign with a total budget of $75,000. Our KPI was $200,000 at the Australian box office. And yeah, it turns out that space and STEM in Australia is a super hot topic. So people were really excited about this film. And I also just wanted to flag here that at the time, IMAX Sydney also opened this film. And because they opened the film at the same time as us, it enabled us to get enormous amounts of coverage. In Australia, the media sort of deems a topic as of national interest if it's happening in Melbourne and Sydney. Even though we're only 2 cities out of the whole country, we do have the largest populations of any capital cities in Australia. So yeah, that works hugely in our favour. So I do have to do a major shout out to the team at IMAX Sydney. They're not there at the moment. The Sydney Theatre, as you know, is closed, but it is reopening in a couple of years, which I'm really excited for, because that means we can work on these kind of campaigns with them again in the future. So here's a bit of an overview of the outcome of our campaign before I sort of talk you through, the ins and outs of it. So we ended up with, or within the 3-month period, we ended up at with 230,000 at the Australian box office. We saw 15,000 admissions over the first 3 months, and that has grown quite a lot since then. The film is still extremely popular, which is really great. We've seen to date over 13,000 school students, and we're about to go into our winter here in Australia, and so far we've got 1,700 students booked in to see this film 2 years later, sort of over our winter, which is really exciting. And we do continue to see this film at the top of our school bookings month after month, which is really great. For this campaign, we saw a massive 3.4 million press reach, purely because we managed to get national coverage, which I'll talk to you soon. We had 9 sold out events. Our organic social reach was 764,000, which was just enormous. And we really did work Marsha super hard. She had 31 interviews over the course of 5 days. So just an overview of the channels that we used down here at IMAX Melbourne to promote this week of exciting Marsha-facing events. We have on-site signage here, so we have big banners all around the museum. We have a huge front window wrap, and yeah, we would just really push the film over our on-site channels. We have our own e-news subscription list of 30,000, plus we utilised, that's just for IMAX. For the wider museums Victoria, there's over 200,000 in their databases, so we had a really big e-news blast that went out. We have a Facebook page with over 30,000 followers on it, plus we used all the Museums Victoria channels as well. They have enormous followings as well, so massive online social media just by using our own channels. We hosted 9 events targeted at all different audiences, which in themselves garnered additional press and coverage on social media. We had our advertising campaign, which was targeted purely at a family audience. We worked with brand and content partners where we produced our own content, and we got our brand partners with who have like-minded values to share our content on their channels. So again, that hugely enhanced our social and organic reach. We rolled out several media releases, and we had a really big media relations campaign. And we also heavily focused on education outreach. We have a big database of teachers here at the museum who we engaged with for multiple different events, just to really get that word out there. So I guess what I'll be talking about now is the PR component of our campaign. This was supported by our advertising campaign, but specifically I'll be talking about PR. So this encompassed media relations, events, and shareable moments. So we really wanted to fill Marsha's schedule. She was only down here for a few days, and she really didn't have time to come up for air much, and we are so grateful for that. She really worked hard, and we were just thrilled with everything that she did for us. So basically the idea was maximize Marsha's time here and create as many opportunities as possible. So we obviously planned Marsha's schedule for as much as we could, but as you all know, the reality with media is you have to be super flexible, and I'll talk more to that now. So this is just what our press releases look like, pretty standard. We had long lead press releases, short lead press releases. We allowed for a lot of flexibility. We had all of the assets that we could muster. So social assets, we had quotes, we had high-res imagery, which is really important. Everything was readily available for the media to download really easily and access really easily. So that's just the basics. And then I'll talk about a few examples of some coverage that we got. So this was an interview on the Today Extra show. Today Extra is a national morning television show. They shoot out of Sydney, and they have a studio in Melbourne. So we had Marsha in the Melbourne studio. This interview we locked in literally the day before. So a lot of scrambling sort of happened on our end to get everything ready. We worked with the producers to make sure the script was appropriate. Obviously, you don't want to sway it too much because you want it to be natural, but the Australian media were a little bit obsessed with Marsha's, her work with Anne Hathaway on Christopher Nolan's film Interstellar. She was one of the many consultants on that film, and we had to encourage the press maybe not to talk about that so much. We're here to talk about a beautiful planet. And Marsha was really great. She did a great job at steering the media toward our key messages. For us, that was just about being flexible and dropping everything at the last minute to make this happen. We also had some great long lead press. So this was an interview. Marsha actually did this interview over the phone before she came to Australia, and then this went to print when she was here. So that was a really great piece, lots of really great imagery. Another reason why we need to have available high-res imagery. Here's an example also of, we had a breakfast radio interview. This interview was with Matt and Alex. They are the hosts of the Triple J breakfast program. Triple J is the national youth broadcaster. So massive reach on this interview, really exciting. This one was a pre-record and it went live sort of the morning after that. So that was really great. We worked with the team at IMAX in Sydney with this because this radio studio was based out of Sydney. Here we also have some short lead press. So this little girl here on the left is actually our theatre manager Richard's daughter, Ruby. So we orchestrated this event. We called the school and we said, can we bring an astronaut to your school? And they were like, yes, of course. And we obviously called the press and we got some great coverage. The kids asked some hilarious questions. Marsha was amazing. She really humoured them. And it went on for like an hour and a half. It wasn't supposed to be that long, but the kids just loved it so much. And that was a really great opportunity to promote the film to kids and parents as well, while also inspiring little kids. Here's an example of some content that we created. So we engaged our junior reporter. This is Adele. She's 11 years old. She wants to become an astronaut. And we asked if she would come in to interview Marsha for some video that we would create and then seed out to appropriate media channels. She was so nervous, and Marsha was just brilliant with her. That was a really, really sweet thing that happened there. And we seeded it out across a channel. One of the channels was called Australia's Science Channel, and they share lots of targeted video content for engaging young people who are interested in the STEM subjects, which is something we really wanted to push. Another example of social media outreach is part of our PR campaign. This guy here is 17 years old and he runs an organisation called the Australia's Student Space Organisation. They have 16,000 highly engaged followers on Instagram. And we got him to come in, him and his buddies, they came in and they filmed an interview with Marsha and they shared it across their channels, and that added to our massive social reach. So throw into all of our media relations events. So we had traditional events like media screenings, teacher previews, and we created additional events just because Marsha was here, and events that we have continued to roll out since. And one of those is an event that I developed called IMAX Bright Young Minds. IMAX Bright Young Minds is aimed at seniors. Well, you guys call it, in North America, you call them high school seniors. We call them year 11 and 12 students here. So, 15 to 18-year-old kids with an interest in STEM subjects. STEM in Australia is a really massive hot topic at the moment. Particularly, there is a strong push by the government to get young girls interested in the STEM subjects, because ultimately, if we get more girls working towards careers in the STEM subjects, then it will close the gender gap and the gender wage gap, and also promote equal female participation within that industry, or those industries, the sciences, the technology, engineering and maths. So for me, that's a big passion point, and Marsha was the perfect person to host that event, and it went really well, and we've continued to roll that event out since. Yeah, that was really exciting for us. And I've just got some pictures to show you now from the events. So Marsha hosted all of our events. She introduced them, and at most of them, she also participated in a Q&A. So we had roaming microphones, lots of really great questions from young people, which was really exciting. Here is a picture from IMAX Bright Young Minds. Working with teenagers is something, that we're really trying to develop that part of what we do here. It's sort of an audience that is hard to capture, and we were really proud of how many we had coming to this event. We had, of course, we invited our VIPs and our media, our stakeholders, and we give them beer and ice cream. We work with our ice cream sponsors to have all of the good stuff there. They were really engaged. Everyone was really excited. We roll out the red carpet, make a big affair of it, and we got some great coverage out of that event as well. We look to inspire really young kids as well. So we had a meet an astronaut screening for young kids. The queuing out the door was nuts. Here's an example of Marsha speaking at a non-screening event. So this is Marsha at our Science Works Museum, and this is an event called the Astrolight Festival. So she was the keynote speaker at this event. It was a great opportunity to cross-promote the film and also work with our teams at our other museums. Again, highly engaged audience, and yeah, just a really great event. Throw into all of this our shareable moments. So we created a big a chalkboard for people to write on. So we asked them, like, what do you love most about your beautiful planet? And they wrote, what they wanted to on the board. And people love this. They love getting involved with, just writing their thoughts. We did have to keep an eye on the board, though, especially after our events that were focused at teens, because we did have a few rude words written on the board, but that's fine. The fact is that they were there and they were engaged and they were excited, and a lot of them wanted to free Harambe, so that was a hot topic at the time. So just a hot tip: keep an eye on boards that you invite people to write on. Here's another example of someone engaging at our media screening. This guy just went over and drew this enormous moon on the wall, which was really great. Lots of people were snapping photos of it, and again, increasing our shareability on social media. Kids were all about it. They were really getting up in there and engaging in that as well. So all the parents were there, all the mums and dads taking photos of their kids. Just another way to engage all age groups. We also created this fun shareable moment. So one of our front of house staff, his name is Dan, he is an incredible artist, and he created this for us, and everybody had a go at this. Like, this is all over Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook. Really exciting. People will love putting their faces through holes, which is great news for us. And then several months later, after we had launched the film, we got a surprise visit from Terry Virts, who, as you may know, is one of the astronauts in the film. We received information that morning that he was in Melbourne and he wanted to come and see the film at our theatre, which of course we were thrilled about. So that was a mad scramble of booking in photographers, calling the media. We wanted to surprise a whole bunch of kids that their school had booked them in to watch the film that morning. So we called the schools, and we obviously had to get make sure their parents had all signed release forms so that they could be photographed or filmed by the media. In Australia, that's pretty standard across schools. You generally have to do that for your kid at the beginning of the year. So all of the kids, had been pre-approved to appear in the media. So that was really great. Terry went into the theatre and was like, "Hey there, I'm Terry Virts, and you're about to see me," and 7 stories high, and the kids went crazy. It was hilarious. It was like having a major celebrity in our midst. So again, this is like another example of how we can use talent to really enhance on people's experiences in IMAX. We called the media. They came down, and this host here, the interviewer, she hosts a show that is targeted at tweens in Australia. It's a national broadcast, and Terry was fantastic. He just did whatever we asked him to, and he was just so easy to work with, that was a really great experience for everyone. So that sort of added value months later to our campaign. So again, just revisiting the outcome. We're really happy with this campaign, and if anyone has any questions about any of this, I'll be more than happy to answer them. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kate. I really appreciate both of you making your presentations. We're going to be answering questions now. If you have any questions, please submit them through the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. I will go ahead and ask the questions and share them with the group. Mara, Shauna asked, how do you choose which photos or content to use for your social media promotions? What does best? And she says, great results.
Oh, well, thank you. And great question. We really try to capture photos with people in them to really personalize what we're doing here at the museum. And if possible, get their facial expressions, just to really humanize and personalize that interaction that's happening with whatever content we're hoping to share on social.
Terrific, thank you. Mara, Diane Carlson asked a couple of lead time questions. If you could share information about when the date the film was announced, date the TIV was announced, the date of the TIV visit, the date that the film opened to the public. And she says, thank you for sharing.
Of course. So the film opened to the public on January 13th. We got confirmation that Sean and the TIV would be available and at some point make their way to us on January 23rd, so actually a little bit after our opening. And then he arrived on February 12th and stayed through the 14th. So it was a quick visit for him, a quick turnaround for us, and that's part of why you'll see that our campaign was very social heavy or more heavy on the owned side. I did do quite a bit of outreach PR-wise and got some interest, but unfortunately by the time I was able to connect with reporters and they were able to pitch the story and get approval, Sean was already on his way back home. So that's why we really turned to channels that we had more control over and that direct communication with folks who were innately interested in the content of extreme weather. So it was a tight turnaround, but we were really able to do a lot with our owned channels on social and those e-blasts and things to really amp up the engagement.
Thank you. Mara, Emily Richardson with the Science Center of Iowa asked, you referenced learning that the TIV was coming. Who arranged for that at your museum? Was it arranged outside with a marketing and PR firm, and how far in advance? I know that you answered some of that, but if you could go through that, would be great.
Yeah, I think we had our first planning call for the film shortly after the new year with Nat Geo. We worked with Aileen Robertson over there. So that first January call, the maybe opportunity arose, and so we said, yeah, let's look into that. And then by mid-January, around the time of the opening of the film, we had confirmed that Sean was absolutely interested and would love to come to Colorado with the TIV. And then we submitted a proposal to Nat Geo. They accepted it by January 23rd, and then Sean was on the road February 12th, headed our way.
Terrific. Thank you. Again, to those of you on, if you have any questions, feel free to submit them through your Q&A button through Zoom. Next question is for Kate from Diane Carlson. Who were some of your content partners?
Hi, Diane. Thanks for your question. So our content partners, so our main one was Australia's Science Channel. So they are like a content aggregator. They create some of their own original content, but mostly they will work with like-minded partners like us, just so that and they'll share our content across all of their channels, which is really exciting. Our other content partners were other cultural organisations within Melbourne, so with similar engaged audiences, and also other state-based partners. So, for example, this is across all of our campaigns. We regularly share content across these same channels because we have really great relationships with them. City of Melbourne is one of them. So City of Melbourne have a huge database. They're the local government here in Melbourne in which the museum sits. So we work with them. They have multiple channels that speak to multiple audiences. We also work with the Art Centre here in Melbourne. We work with ACME. ACME it's a museum of cinema, and they have sort of similar audiences to us. We also work with, like the aquarium, other outlets that speak to an education-facing audience. So like-minded cultural and local organisations, we use their channels a lot. So we would call them content partners too.
Thank you, Kate. Kent Moz asked both Mara and Kate, how many films do your institutions show at a time? And is that set or does it fluctuate with content?
I can answer that one. So per year, we screen 4 to 6 giant screen documentary films, and we also screen 20 to 25 first-run Hollywood films. We only have one theatre here at IMAX in Melbourne, so it does get a little tight sometimes. Like, we'll only screen films for sometimes a week at a time. For example, Deadpool opened yesterday, and we're screening that for a week before Solo opens next week. So it does get a little tricky sometimes with our scheduling. It does get a bit busy.
Yeah, and for us here in Denver, we have one screen. We typically show 3 documentaries in rotation, and try and switch those out quarterly. It depends on what's available, sometimes semi-annually. And then we're also experimenting, just launched this year, with second-run Hollywood films on our weekend evenings, which has been going really well for us. So we're dipping our toe into the Hollywood markets as well.
Thank you both for that. Kate, Diane Carlson has asked, how far in advance did you pitch the long lead press?
Diane again. Hello, thank you for your question. Long lead press, pretty much as soon as we found out that that Marsha was all locked in. So I would say for long lead, my preference is that I get at least 3 months. Again, though, long lead is a bit of a dying art in Australia, so there really isn't that much. To be honest, my preference is to work with shorter lead press, digital, radio, television. All of that is very last minute. So while it's great to have long lead, it's all tied up now with advertising. The media is shrinking dramatically. It's all changing very quickly. I'm sure it's the same in North America. But, ideally 3 months, 2 to 3 months. But, whatever you can give us is great.
Thank you. Kate, Mary Jane Dodge with McGillivray Freeman Films asked, did the museum have STEM programs already that you tied in with the film?
Thanks, Mary Jane. No is the short answer. So we operate quite separately. Down here in IMAX, we sort of operate as almost like a small business within a larger organisation. We sort of work towards supporting the museum's exhibitions rather than the exhibitions and programming supporting us, which is why I developed IMAX Bright Young Minds. I did go out and consult our public programming teams, but as a general rule, we're a little bit on our own down here, and where we can, we do certainly work with the public programming and exhibitions teams.
Terrific, thank you. Tom Benson with Tennessee Aquarium asked, I'm impressed by having 6 sellout events for A Beautiful Planet. What are the main factors that led to that kind of success?
Certainly it's having enormous guest lists. So for our media screenings and our teacher previews and our sort of traditional events, we have really large databases of people that we can invite along to those. When it comes to ticketed events, it's about throwing in those added extras. So the main thing is obviously having Marsha there. She's a huge draw card, and we find people want to learn. So if there's an opportunity to go to a screening, where there's a real life astronaut there, I think having the talent there adds so much value. But it's also about throwing in those, the shareable moments. It's about throwing in the choc top ice creams, the beer. You have to really think about who your audience is and what would they want at your screening, what will add value, what will make them more excited to come along. I think it's also about exclusivity. It's about having those events before the official launch of the film. People like to feel special. They like to come in, they like to feel like, oh, there's a red carpet, look at this, there's a guest list, I'm important. And I think it's just really about thinking about who your audience is, and then, going hell for leather on inviting as many people as you can. The other thing as well is for our new events like Bright Young Minds, we had to work really hard to get 350 kids there. So we were doing community outreach. We were speaking directly to calling schools. We were flooding every single social media channel that we could find. We were hounding the media. So to build those new events, we really had to work super hard, but it paid off, in spades, which was really great.
That's terrific. Thank you. We just have a couple of more minutes. If anyone has any additional questions, please feel free to put them in that Q&A at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Steve Bishop asked, how did you prioritize Marcia Ivan's potential appearances? And were there any opportunities that you had to pass up?
I guess for us it was about thinking, what is the most relevant media outlet? Luckily, we managed to book in as many things as we could in advance, but then we did have to let go of a few, smaller media requests. So, like local radio stations, we obviously had to prioritize a national television audience over that one. But to be honest, I don't remember there actually being too many clashes. We were really lucky with being able to sort of slot everything in, and having Marcia, who was just extremely receptive to being flexible and sort of doing things on the fly, jumping in Ubers, getting around to all these different events. She was just really open. And I guess the biggest thing is making sure your talent is comfortable, fed, watered, just the basics, because then they'll keep going. And yeah, she was amazing. So again, thank you, Marcia.
Well, terrific. I think we've come to the end of our questions, and if no one else has other questions, we actually are very close to the end of our scheduled time. So I would like to thank Kate and Maura so much for sharing their award-winning campaigns. Also, I'd like to make sure we say a special thank you to Marlene for her leadership on the Member Services Committee, and to everyone who joined our webinar today. We'll send out the link to the recording at the end of the week, and it will also be available in the Member Center on the GSCA website. We encourage you to submit your own marketing campaigns and education campaigns for award consideration. And you'll see a link on the screen right now that will take you to the GSCA website where you're welcome to submit. Submissions for this are due by July 13th. We also would love to encourage anyone who's not currently on a GSCA committee to participate. Please feel free to send me an email. My email address is on the screen, tammy@giantscreencinema.com. And you can also send us any questions or feedback about this webinar there as well. Again, thanks to Kate and Maura for participating and for making their presentations today. And thanks very much to Kelly Germain for all the work that went into putting this webinar together. We appreciate your membership at GSCA and look forward to seeing you in Chattanooga and Birmingham in September. Thank you, everyone.